It is August and it's the weekend and it's sunny, she says, as it probably isn't. The downside of it being a British summer is that generally when it's supposed to be sunny, it's raining. I'm assuming at the point of recording this that because it is slightly sunny, that it might actually stay this way. It might kind of heat up in time for August as this episode airs, which I'm very excited about. Today I've got a really awesome guest on the show talking all about how to put people first in your business. And for me, that's such a big topic. And it's really interesting because one of the things when I started out in sales that people often assumed was that you wanted to just rip people off. Everyone was like, oh yeah, you just want to make as much money as possible and get as much commission and blah, 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 blah. And to a certain degree, okay, if you get, 500 salespeople in a room, yes, you are going to have a high percentage of people who they really are there to make their money. They really are there to close the deal. They're living on the adrenaline of closing the deal. But you're also going to get some people who really believe in something called consultative selling, which is ultimately about making sure that you understand fully your customer's problem and providing them with the very best solution and really putting them at the heart of the matter. And that's the kind of selling that I was raised to do. I say raised to do, like, I don't know, like I was a child in the sales world. But it's true, and I remember my first director when I went into corporate saying to me, people are profit and we have to look after them in order to make the profit that we want to make. And over the years, that's really stuck with me. That particular director was actually a very inspirational guy, in some respects. In other respects, interesting to work with. But the things that he said made sense. He was very focused on build relationships. He was very focused on putting people at the heart of the problem. He was very focused on solutions and making sure that people felt valued within the sales process. And actually, what that did was made our customers much, much happier, gave us a really unique selling proposition in the market because we were one of the only firms in that particular industry who cared. We kept in touch with people regularly. We actually cared about what they were doing. And it's something that I've been able to take into my own business over the last 5 years and really do well. And it's always interesting to me because people often talk about, I need new leads, I need to build a bigger audience, I need more people, etc., etc., etc. And the interesting thing for me has been that the majority of people who are in my world, who are in my communities, they'll stay for about 2.5 years. That's a long time. That's a long time to spend with those people, to be privileged enough to solve their problems. And actually, after people stop buying from me, they don't disappear from my wealth. They continue to be in my free Facebook community. They continue to listen to the podcast. They continue to recommend and refer me to people. And there have been definitely times over the last 5 years where I've thought, I'm just so lucky. And when I had this conversation today with the amazing guest, Dixon, it kind of reminded me for the first time in a while, well, actually, no, those things aren't luck. It's not luck that gets you building those solid relationships and actually maintaining them. It's your approach to your business. It's your approach to your people. So if you are somebody who really is saying, I care about my people, I really want to serve them at the highest level, I really want to make the money that I deserve, but also make this impact on the world, then you have to really be putting relationships at the forefront of that, and not just in generating new relationships. It's so easy. I often compare it to dating. It's so much easier to date somebody like at first. Does anyone remember that? You get the first flush of like, oh my God, I have to text them back every 5 minutes because they're so amazing. And about that lasts, I don't know, up until about 6 months in. And then you realize that you actually have a life and other things to do. And so their texts, you might take 10 minutes to get back to them, or 30 minutes, or even an hour. And then after you've been together, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 years, you're like, oh, okay, well, you're maintaining that relationship. It's no longer exciting. It's no longer something that you have the adrenaline from, but it's something that you have that strong link to that person. So you make the effort even when you don't feel like it. And it's the same with your audience. It's easy for anybody to generate new leads because it's sexy to generate new leads. It's fun. It's exciting. There's an adrenaline rush in seeing your email list build. What isn't sexy is maintaining those relationships over time and potentially overcoming obstacles in those relationships. You know, resetting boundaries with clients, having to remind people how to act in your communities, having to continually email these people and think, oh, but you know, maybe they haven't bought from me in 6 months or 7 months or a year. You're going to have those periods of times where you think, well, actually, do I want to maintain this relationship? Am I investing too much energy into people? And the answer is no. You can never invest too much energy into the right people. And the right people are the people who will reward you, maybe not always financially immediately, but who will reward you with referrals, who will open your emails consistently, who will respond to you, who will take your surveys, who will go ahead and take part in your challenges, who will share your content across the internet. So just be aware that if you are putting people at the heart of your sales process, you're also putting people at the heart of your marketing process, and you're generating relationships that last a lifetime. I really hope you enjoy this episode. The conversation really did make me think about a few things, and it's really, really nice to see somebody who values their community and hear from them about how they are changing the world one person at a time. Enjoy the conversation. Poddies, it is Friday and I have got the lovely Brian Dixon on the show. Welcome, Brian.
Jessica, thanks so much for having me.
I'm so excited about this, and not least because when you came on to record today, you had your video on and you actually look like your pictures. That's very exciting in this world.
I think it's easier for guys.
Yeah, I would agree.
My haircut hasn't changed in like 10 years, but you see a female headshot and then you meet her at a conference a week later, and she changed her hair and it's like, she looks really different. But guys, our hair's a lot more boring.
Well, in a way, I'm so jealous of this because I've had red hair, like bright red hair, for I don't know how many years now. And every so often I debate, I'm like, oh, maybe I should dye a different color. And I get really excited about it. And then I think, no, because then I'd have to have new headshots done and I just can't be bothered.
Right? That's the challenge of the online world now.
I know. Personal branding. What?
That's
I'm
right.
really excited to have you on because I love the message that you have. And you have a new book coming out in September, which
Yes.
I love the title of. It's called Start With Your People. And that for me just kind of sums up everything that I stand for in terms of sales, people first. And I'd love for you to kind of tell us how you got to this point where people really became like the purpose of your business.
Oh, Jessica, thanks so much for asking the question. This doesn't come naturally to me, putting people first, especially in business. I come from the nonprofit world. I was a teacher and then a school administrator working with middle school and high school kids. Eventually fell in love with technology, which led to training people about technology, which eventually led to speaking at conferences and helping people with their technology. And you can't do that for very long without, starting a blog and helping people with blogs. And so it kind of led to being the behind the scenes guy for authors and speakers and podcasters, it's a digital media strategist. That's kind of what I've focused on. And what I thought would lead to success is results. As long as I can get my clients more visitors, more subscribers, more customers, as long as I can get the project done, everybody's going to be happy. But what I've learned the hard way is if I'm so focused on the numbers and the results, and I don't take the time to build the relationship and to follow up with people and to, be a human, then basically the relationship's going to crumble. And at the end of the day, we do business with people we know, like, and trust. We don't necessarily do business with people who are going to get us results, but going to be a jerk about it. And I just had one of those mirror moments of seeing myself and going, wait a second, I'm not coming across to people the way I really know that I could, and not showing up like my best self wasn't really showing up. And so it was a period of introspection that led to the message of this book, which is when we put people first, profit inevitably comes, but you have to start with your people.
I really like that, and I love what you said there about being technologically minded. And yes, I'm very surprised, Poddy, I managed to get that out in one go. I thought that was going to be where I stumbled. over my words today. But I think it's really important because it doesn't come naturally to everybody. I'm not a people person. I often say to people, you know, my friends often tell people, they're like, oh, Jess hates people. Like, I really don't. I don't enjoy I don't enjoy spending time with the wrong people, and I'm quite introverted. And so actually for me, you know, there's nothing worse than feeling like, oh my goodness, I have to go and talk to all these people that I probably don't really want to build a relationship with, or that I don't really have an interest in. And I think that sometimes when we get into this, particularly the online business space, we think that we have to do that. We think we have to find common ground with everybody. And I love that actually that's not what you're saying. You're saying start with the right people and build the right relationships for you to move forward.
Yeah, for sure. And I actually believe that you already have those right people in your life. Like there are already people that are in your, you know, that live near you, or might even be, you know, in your family, that your significant other, in your, you know, in your co-working space, in your church community, like wherever you happen to be right now. If you flipped it around and stopped thinking about one day I'm going to meet the right people, and just serve the people that are already in your life. The reality is they know people that know people that know the people that you want to know. Like eventually you get to a point where you're being introduced to the right people, but you've got to show up for the people already in your life. And that was the mistake I was making. I was always looking 2 or 3, you know, rungs of the ladder above, and not thinking about how can I just show up for the people right now. It was more like, how can I connect with an influencer? But in reality, the people that are right there, right next to me right now, are influencers. Like they are people who know people. And so, and what I was also realizing is I was developing these lazy habits, you know, these habits of not really engaging with people, not really listening to people. And understanding begins with listening. And if we're going to be coaches and we're going to help people as speakers or as authors or as podcasters or whatever you happen to do, you've got to really learn how to engage with people, and listening to the people already in your life is a great place to start.
I really like that. I think it's so interesting because I've often said to my community, one of the things that I find most difficult now is that we have so many ways of connecting with people. You know, we have social media, we have, like you've mentioned, the groups and communities that we're already part of in real life, so to speak. But the interesting thing is that despite being so connected, actually we've all become very disconnected. You know, we're always looking for that next person who can help me next, who can do something next. And that's always been quite difficult for me to see, particularly in the online business space, because it makes you feel like people are a number, you know, they're a sale and then they're nothing, you know, and we hear that feedback quite a lot. I mean, do you think that there is a connection there to the fact that we have so much connectivity now that actually we're getting much lazier in our relationships? We feel like we don't have to work as hard at them.
Oh, absolutely. It's both sides of the coin. Like the fact that we can meet anybody with just a few introductions, you know, like literally there's anybody in the whole world we could meet in the next 24 hours if we get introduced by the right person. That's incredible. But also with that, we kind of take the tools for granted a little bit. And so, you know, I've just been really inspired by, you know, 6 and 7 figure entrepreneurs who have done it well. I noticed that you had Kate Erickson on the show a few months ago. Kate's incredible. And when I met Kate, I partnered with my friend Mike Kim. It was at Social Media Marketing World 3 or 4 years ago. And we host this thing called the Epic Breakfast Club, which is basically, we reach out to a bunch of the speakers and other sort of colleagues and influencers, and we say, hey, we'd love to buy your breakfast. This is a safe place where you can just share what's working, what's not working, and how can we support each other. And so we reached out to Kate, and Kate immediately was like, I'm in, I'm going to help. Who do you want to know? How can I help you guys? She was incredible. And I look at people like Kate and I'm like, or Chris Whitfield's another example, like those are people who understand the power of networking, but they're able to do it in a way that is absolutely 100% authentic. And that's the thing. If we're authentic in our relationships, then the tools can be leveraged to get everything that we want, as long as we help other people get what they want. You know, it's just the way it works.
As Zig Ziglar once said, you know.
That's right. That's right.
About creating that pattern. I think it's so interesting there. I just want to take it back to the fact that, you know, you mentioned a couple of great people who, you know, I've been fortunate enough to have on the show alongside yourself. Kate Erickson,
Yes.
Chris Winfield, and I've had some incredible people on the show, and people often say to me, oh, you know, how do you get these amazing influencers on the show? And one of the things is that a lot of the amazing people who listen to the show have recommended me. I've been very fortunate. A lot of you guys who listen will actually email your favorite other, you know, podcasters or whoever and say, I would love to hear you have a conversation with Jess. And that means a lot to me. That, you know, that's really, really awesome. But the other thing is that actually I find the further up the, I don't know if influencer is the right word, but further up the business ladder, the more somebody is making, generally the more generous they tend to be about the connections that they're happy to help you make. I don't know whether
Yes.
you've experienced the same thing, but you know, when you're starting out in business, I think that there's a big temptation to keep every lead for yourself, and you want to sell to those people. And so if they go and follow somebody else, they might buy from them and not from you. And you have that kind of natural fear around it. Whereas when people, you know, as they kind of get up further towards the 6 figures or 7-figure mark that they want to be at, they tend to be a lot more generous about sharing their connections with people they trust.
Yes, absolutely. I've found that. It's funny, you know, with a book coming out, one of the things that we do as authors is we solicit endorsements. You know, we reach out to people and we say, hey, would you consider, right? Would you consider doing work for me for free and letting me leverage your name? Like, it's a pretty selfish question to get someone to endorse your book. And yet I found, and you know, we try to do it in a way that actually serves them and helps them, because when you start with your people, you're thinking about what is in it for them. So we try to do it in a little bit of a different way. But what I found is that some of the people at the top of their game were the most generous with their time. They wrote the kindest endorsement. I mean, I'm just blown away at some of the people that said yes and actually followed through and did it. And it's like, I think actually, yeah, this is definitely true. And because I've heard this from several, you know, influential people, is they remember what it was like when nobody would answer their email. You know, they remember what it was like when they tried to launch their book or get on a podcast or speak at a special, you know, event, and nobody would give them the time of day. And they made a decision at that moment. I am not going to do that. When I get to my, whatever my pinnacle success is, when I get to my next goal, I'm going to look back, I'm going to reach my hand out, and I'm going to help that next person skip a couple steps, because I worked so hard to get where I am. I'm going to use this platform that I've earned to be generous in helping others.
I think that's a lovely way to be. And I also think it's so interesting because when you start with people, you know, like in the case of your book and the kind of premise that you have around your business, it's an exchange. You know, you and Mike, for example, you put on this breakfast event. And so it was an exchange of, okay, great, we will do something. We will provide the safe space. You come along, share knowledge. And that's really nice. And I think what a lot of people perhaps get wrong about networking is that they go straight in with that hard sell. We want you to do something for us. We want you to let us leverage your audience, but there's nothing in return. And I think people can get quite caught up in, well, I can only give something to an influencer if I have a ton of followers. What would you say to those people?
Yes, fix what's broken. That's like my new manifesto. You know, if you look at that influential person that you're following and you say, how do I get that person to send an email for me? How do I get that person to affiliate for my course? How do I get that person to introduce me to their friends, right? The answer is, don't think that. Start with, how can I help them? And often what we can do is we just pay attention to what's broken. And so just as an example, you know, there's an influential person in my space that I really want to get to know. I would love this person to mentor me. Like, that would be my dream. You know, it's like literally on my vision board. I'm like, this person would mentor me. And so I was listening to his podcast and I realized, like, the audio is not very loud. You know how audio on podcasts is supposed to be a certain volume. And so when I listened to other podcasts, they were loud and I could hear it. But then his podcast was always quieter. And so I researched, you know, what the problem, and I realized that they haven't done this post-production of audio, just to nerd out for a second. And I found a tool that would increase the volume of the podcast and keep the quality the same or even better. And so I emailed his support team and I said, hey, I'd love the podcast. And by the way, here's a link to a tool. It's a free tool that will help you increase the volume level of your podcast, so your podcast will sound better and your audience will really appreciate it. You know, I hope that this serves you. And I just sent that email. I didn't hear anything for 3 or 4 days. And then I got an email back from his team. And they said, this person's name is John. So they said, John really appreciated the advice. We're implementing that tool. Thank you so much for the time. Now, he didn't tomorrow mentor me. It didn't happen immediately, right? But now he knows who I am, or at least his team knows who I am. That he got value from what I did. His podcast is better because it sounds better. And I got this feeling of yeah, I made an impact. I actually helped somebody today. And I think if we do that, if each day we start with our people as we say, what can I do to help somebody today? What can I do to fix one thing that's broken? Then it's going to lead to opportunity, and same thing, that when you have that opportunity, you look at it and say, what can I do to fix what's broken? How can I show up and serve and make this place a little better than I found it? And that will lead to even more opportunity. And eventually you'll get to a point where people are looking at you and they're saying, hey, Brian, could you introduce me to so-and-so, or could I be on your podcast, or could you come do this thing? And it's it's just this journey. It really isn't a destination. It's just a journey of service. And the more we serve people, it's the more influential the people we're serving get. It just keeps going because we're showing up and we're delivering for other people.
I really love that. I think it's so interesting because I think sometimes we look at sales as being the antithesis of that. People can often look at sales and go, oh, well, it's sleazy and we're hard selling people and we're forcing them to buy something that they maybe don't want or need. But the reality is that sales is all about that. It's all about service. It's about providing the right solution at the right time to the right person. And I think that kind of overcomes a lot of people's nervousness around having to do the sales task when you know that it's coming from that genuine place of actually, yes, I really want to help my community. So I'm going to put out an offer that when they invest in it, I know that they'll actually implement it and then they're going to get the best results, as opposed to sitting in fear and thinking, well, I'm going to create another free training that people can consume, but they might not implement, so they might not get the right results. And then who knows?
Oh, absolutely. I love talking about sales because, so I come from a nonprofit. So I have two strikes against me. Number one, I come from a nonprofit background, education background. And then number two, my dad was a pastor. So I come from the faith church world, right? So talking about money as this Christian kid growing up, where the church is not great about talking about money. It just gets really weird, right? And then education, they're not great about talking about money. And now I'm a full-time business coach. So so I've had a lot of money mindset issues to work through. And I love empowering faith-based entrepreneurs. And, I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, but that's my sweet spot, because I get it. I've been there. I've been around the kitchen table, and I know the conversations you have as a family about money and the lack of money. And sales is service. Sales is an opportunity to help somebody take the next step with you, to help somebody get the result that they're after. And in exchange, what Daniel Lapin calls certificates of appreciation. They give you dollars, they pay you in exchange for the service that you provide. And when you hate sales, generally it's because it's coming from a place of not really seeing the benefit that they're getting. So if you flip it around, you start with your people and you think, what is the goal that this potential client has, and how can I help her, or how can I help him achieve that goal through the product or service that I offer? It really changes your whole perspective. And that for me is, that really opened the door of opportunity, is when I started to see sales as service, sales as a means to helping other people get what they want.
And that's so important. I mean, your background is so interesting, because that's kind of like a double whammy there, when you coming from not-for-profit
yes.
and a pastor's son. Those are two backgrounds that really don't preach generating your own wealth.
That's right. Oh, yeah, there's all kinds of issues there. Absolutely.
Yeah, that takes a lot of overcoming. It's so interesting, because I think people have so much tied into their own story around why they don't sell. And often it's because they don't want to be selfish, or they don't want to be arrogant. They don't want to, be inconvenient to people. They don't want to hard sell them. They don't want to make them feel bad. There are so many things that play into that. But with that particular background, there are a whole load of stereotypes effectively that come into play. And it's actually really hard to get over those things. So I love that putting people at the heart of it has helped you overcome that.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what I found, I think I heard Mike Hyatt say this quote, but it might be from him or somebody else. But the idea is when people pay, they pay attention. And I know for me, anytime that I've gifted something to someone, like my products and programs, so we host an annual conference for writers. So when we've given a discounted admission or a free admission to the conference, those are the people who skip sessions. Those are the people who don't really show up. When my online courses, when I give one of my online courses away, the people that get it for free, those are the people that don't finish the course. Like they don't even log in. And I've found that it hurts the people that I'm giving it away for free.
Yeah.
And so charging is a way of, it's almost like a focus filter. It's basically saying, by charging this amount, I'm expecting you to show up and get a good ROI, get a good return on investment because I'm charging this. And actually, the more that we charge, the more people pay attention, the more they consider, is this going to be a right fit? And so if you're coming from a place, this is what I tell my coaching clients, if you're coming from a place about being nervous about sales, raise your prices. Because what will happen is when you do make that sale, you are going to show up in a way that you've never shown up before. And as a result, your client is going to get even better results than they've ever gotten before. And the testimonial that they're going to give you is going to be incredible. It's going to lead to more abundance because everybody is bringing their best self to the situation. And the one thing that changed is the investment that you're making in them and the investment that they're making in themselves.
I love that. I really, really like that approach to, okay, well, if you want to, if you want to help them more, charge more. It's like maximum account. I really like that. This has been so useful. I think it's one of those things that people can often get so caught up in their own stories around, thinking they're helping people, but feeling a bit like a fraud, not necessarily knowing whether they are or not, or, feeling like they don't want to sell those things. What's your number one top tip for anybody listening who really feels like, no, I really want to prove that I am putting people at the heart of my business, and that, things like sales and marketing, I'm doing it for their own benefit, as opposed to feeling like I'm only doing it to serve myself?
Oh, absolutely. Okay. So here's the best tip that I could possibly give, because it's going to increase your sales. It's going to give you more confidence, and it's going to have more people know, like, and trust you. And that is celebrate your students. Or if you don't have students, if you have clients, celebrate your clients, celebrate their successes. So I do that in two ways. In the top drawer, I call it the brag drawer. Okay. So when somebody sends me an email or posts on social media, just went through Brian's program or just went through Brian's mastermind and it was so great, and here's why, right? Gives me a bit of a testimonial. I print it out and I put it in my drawer, in my brag drawer. Because let's face it, as entrepreneurs, as business owners, even as salespeople, we have really hard days where we have this imposter syndrome and we just feel like we don't have what it takes. When that happens to me, I go over, I open my brag drawer, and I read through the testimonials. And that's enough for me to say, wow, I got Sasha results. I can get Steven results because Sasha said these really nice things about my working with her. So the brag drawer for you, and then taking that testimonial, obviously with their permission, and putting it on your sales page, putting it on your social media, putting it on your about page on your website. Having other people speak about how great you are and how great your products and services are actually attracts more people to trusting you. And so that's the best thing that you can do. If you're feeling overwhelmed by sales, you're feeling inauthentic, I don't know if this is congruent with my values, what you do is, if you don't have any testimonials, is you reach back out to a few of your favorite clients, because we all have those couple favorite clients that we worked with. You reach out and say, hey, I hope you're rocking it. I hope you're having an awesome day. Quick question for you. Would you mind really quick, like just in a voicemail or a quick video or even a text message, just what was it like to work with me? We're just looking for some testimonials. They'd be happy to do it. It will make your day. It makes their day because they're helping you. It makes your day because you're receiving that testimonial. And it's helping future clients make a better decision about working with you.
I really like that point you made there as well about actually talking about your own products and services and not being afraid
Yes.
to do that. So many people, they will often say, how can I sell without being salesy? And being passionate about your own product and service isn't salesy. It's the same as if you find a new pair of shoes that you really love, or a car that you really like, or, a local bakery that has great bread. You will go and talk about it everywhere. And people shouldn't be afraid to do that with their own businesses, right?
Yep, that's exactly it.
I love it. Thank you so much for coming on today. Seriously, this has been gold. Where can people find you? Because I know that there are going to be people sat here listening thinking, yes, I 100% want to put people at the forefront of my business, and I want to understand more about how I can be doing that in better ways and bringing, mutually beneficial outcomes to me and my prospective clients and my current clients. Where's the best place for them to find more Brian?
Absolutely, Jess. Thanks so much for asking. If you're feeling stuck, we have a 30-second quiz on our website, briandixon.com, and it'll help you. We call it the clarity quiz, and it'll help you get clarity, because clarity is power. Like, clarity gives you that certainty that you're living in service and that you're moving forward and bringing your best self to the table. So head over to briandixon.com, take that 30-second quiz. And as you mentioned, I've taken these lessons that I've learned, almost 6 years of entrepreneurship, and basically doing it the wrong way, and realizing how people matter. And I've taken those lessons and put it into a guidebook called Start With Your People. It comes out this September. It's available on Amazon, wherever you buy books, audio and the physical and the digital version as well. So that's called Start With Your People. I'd be honored if you'd order it and leave a review, and any other way I can serve you, just let me know. Just hit me up on social. It's just Brian Dixon.
I love it. So there you go, guys. If you are interested in starting with your people, make sure you head across to briandixon.com, check out the quiz, and more importantly, do check out the book. It's got a great blurb over there. If you head over to the book page, you can actually find out more about it. I will be putting it on my pre-order list for September. It'll be my birthday present to myself, which is always good. What you need for your birthday is always more books. And I have a whole list of them this September coming out. So it's clearly a good for authors. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing so generously. And guys, if you have had a key takeaway, which I'm sure you will have from today's episode, make sure you do hit us up on social media. Tag us and let us know how we did today or what you're going to be implementing from this episode. Brian, thank you so much for coming on.
Jess, thanks for having me.
It's been epic. Guys, enjoy re-listening to this episode. I know that you will be, because there's so much gold in here. And I will see you on Monday for another episode of the Smart Leader Sell podcast.